Glenn Greenwald is host of System Up.
Okay, Trump's statement on ceasefire rejection. The greatest threat to Western civilization today is not Russia, it's probably more than anything else ourselves and some of the horrible US-hating people that represent us. So this is a response to the Ukraine rejecting the Ukrainian people rejecting a ceasefire proposal so that China and Russia could meet, and the US also rejected such an idea, saying that it's mostly just for Russia to be able to regroup, and it's not like in the past Putin trying to do quote unquote like peace talks and stuff with the Ukrainian people and them and them just being, injured or poisoned or something. So, yeah, forget having some kind of ceasefire. The fighting will continue until Russia decides that it wants to give up.
Update on Rumble. He joins us tonight to assess this. Glenn, thanks for coming on. For the second time that we know of, the Biden administration has shut down any attempt to reach a brokered ceasefire. Why do you think that is?
From the very beginning, it's been clear that the U.S. wants this war to continue and wants it to go on for as long as possible because they have no interest in protecting Ukraine. They instead want to sacrifice Ukraine, have Ukraine destroyed in order to advance what they think is the United States' political interest, geopolitical interest of weakening Russia. And the way to do that is to use Ukraine as a pawn, kill as many Ukrainians as possible, destroy their whole.
It's funny how they're trying to claim that it's the United States that want to see large death toll of the Ukrainian people, when it's Russia themselves that is killing people, but somehow it's America's fault that Russia is invading
Country if they have to in order to prolong the war as long as possible. And the response of the U.S. government and its defenders has been, we don't have any position about when the war ends. That's completely up to the Ukrainians. When they want to end the war, they can end the war. If they don't, we'll support them. And the lie.
No, it's up to Russia and Putin. When Putin decides that he wants to stop his invasion and turn himself in for war crimes, then the war will stop. Until then, it's going to keep on until Russia is finally defeated in one way or the other.
I just got revealed. If you listen to what John Kirby said, they asked him, are the Ukrainians willing to have a ceasefire? And he said, not only won't they, we won't allow it either. Essentially admitting finally what's long been obvious, that the country funding the war, providing the arms for the war, which is the United States, determines if and when the war ends. And we obviously don't want that war to end.
How are people who are pushing for the sacrifice of more Ukrainian and Russian children, for whatever it's worth, how did they seize the moral high ground in this conversation? They're monsters.
The only person sacrificing kids is Putin. Also, he is kidnapping kids from the Ukrainian occupied territory, well, the Ukrainian nation, and taking them to Russia to be adopted by Russian people. Again, Tucker Carlson of Fox News wants to phrase this as it's the fault of the Ukrainian people and Russia that this war is going on, when no, it was Putin who decided to invade.
Are they allowed to lecture the rest of us about human rights?
So there's a propagandistic narrative from the beginning that the Ukrainians are feisty, courageous, and are fighting for their own country, and we ought to stand by their side. The reality is the complete opposite. The Ukrainians do not want this war to continue. Zelensky is not using a voluntary army. He's using a conscript army. He is drafting these people who are unwilling to fight, and has repeatedly in the last 4 months on 3 occasions increased the punishments for desertion or for people who are otherwise rebelling against this war because...
No, that's not going on. That's what Russia is doing. Putin has increased punishment for desertion with death. And yeah, there is probably a draft going on in the Ukrainian military, but there's also a lot of voluntary people that are joining the Ukrainian military to fight against Russia and their invasion. The Ukrainian people don't want this war to continue, but as long as Putin decides to keep invading and attacking the Ukrainian people, they will keep fighting the war.
because the Ukrainians know that they're being used as cannon fodder for the interest of other people around the world. So it's a conscript army. They're forcing these Ukrainians to go and die in huge numbers for things that are not in their interest. What's in their interest is to negotiate with the Russians over an agreement that will allow Ukraine to keep the parts of their country that want to be ruled by Kiev, and it's the United States and Great Britain that are blocking it purely for our own interests.
Again, their proposed solution is to let Putin have parts of the Ukrainian nation, and no, that wouldn't stop Putin from his totalitarian actions. He would just keep going to war with other nations.
Yeah, and then they're lecturing you. Right.